Ask a Baker. Last February in Chicago, we did something like this, and so we wanted to bring it back, kind of tweak it a little bit, and it's an ingenious name. It's called Ask a Baker, and so we're just going to ask you to ask questions to this bakery panel, and just have a nice light interaction. So I do want to first thank Hanseloy and Peerless and Shikastev for sponsoring this session. So we really appreciate that. Let's give those sponsors a hand. We learned from Duncan yesterday that it's nice to start with fun, and it kind of releases our brain and makes us not so serious. So fun questions to start with, guys. Let's introduce the panel. Radalia, Richard Ybarra, Mike Porter, and Brandon Heiser volunteered for this. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for doing that. So a fun question. You ready? Things are coming back. What's first concert you're going to go to as things are back?
I don't know. Grand Rapids has a lot of concerts, or they used to, and all over the board. But I'll have to think about that. I don't know. Just probably any of them.
just to get out.
Yeah.
So we had Garth Brooks tickets for last year's stadium tour, so it got delayed. So in September, he's in Cincinnati Stadium, so that's where I'll be.
Okay.
Well, for me, my wife is a big AC/DC fan, so we're waiting for them to come around again.
I'm kind of envious of Mike. My wife's a big Garth Brooks fan, so I think if I could score some of those tickets, she would be really happy.
Garth is coming to Kansas City, and right now the opening price was, I think, $600 a seat for the cheapest seat.
I didn't pay that. I'm in the baking industry.
It's going to be a hard ticket to get. So I was going to do our sporting event, but so thanks guys. So a question I always like to ask bakers: one thing that right now, top of your head, that keeps you up at night, and then after they answer that, it's up to you, the audience, to start asking questions and engaging. So go ahead, guys.
I mean, for me, our people, to be honest, just a unique environment. What's the future look like in the baking industry, and looking at, how do the decisions I lay down every night affect the lives of 455 people and their families. And so thinking through that, we had to be strategic, we had to be correct in every decision that we make to make sure that we take care of those people. So that's my biggest concern. They're great people going through challenges like we are every day, and we have an obligation to provide a good future for them. So.
Yeah, I agree. Going through the pandemic, there was a lot of, what you're saying, Mike, about how do we make sure we make the right decisions, do the right thing, for our people, to make sure they feel safe. But the thing that keeps me up at night now is just getting enough people, and not only on a day-to-day basis, but in business we never think, okay, we've made it, we've got enough business. We're always trying to find more business, and when new opportunities come up, now it's not where can we get the people, it's if we can get the people. So I think, and I don't have any answers to solve that, or if I did, I probably wouldn't be sitting here, but the people side of it has always been a huge factor in everybody's business, I know. But I would say that's probably the number one thing that keeps me up at night.
It's very similar in our business. We're expanding operations on a weekly basis, monthly basis. Associates are key to our success. Trying to come up with a means of supporting them through this pandemic, that everybody's going through right now, and that's shifting schedules. Their kids are at home. They're not able to, put them in daycare or in school as they were before. So we're, looking at flex schedules. Who was available when? And putting together the graphs that we need to fulfill all the positions that we need to run an operation. and also, help them be, be productive and continuing to work. So that has been key for us is the associates and, trying to retain them. So that's kind of been our focus. We have over 230,000 associates that, we have to look out for. So.
I'm not directly involved in manufacturing on the innovation side, but I came up through manufacturing, so when I hear about all the problems, the one thing I'm always thinking of is how can the industry change our operations model? And, I heard some conversations this morning, which was great, and I'm hopeful that those things will be implemented. As I've said to a few other people, who of us would really want our children working in the plants, the odd hours, the conditions that they have to work in? And so I keep thinking of ways that maybe that could improve, because that would really make a difference in our industry.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So I have one question for the entire panel. Are there any pandemic-related sanitation, cleaning elements that you plan to keep or abandon?
In our business, we've got a lot of operations where our associates are closely connected to one another. We've got all the COVID barriers that we've went out and designed for specific functions. But on a daily basis, everybody is, we're not doing the temperature scans as we used to, but we're doing the additional sanitation needs that, that we feel are required for us to keep everybody safe, along with the food that we're producing safe. So, yeah, we do still have some steps in place. And like I said, hopefully at the end of this pandemic, we'll have a lot of COVID barriers that we'll be able to displace and get everybody, back where they can, communicate with one another on a, when you're working on production lines, it's good to be able to, associate with other folks. But, that's kind of what we're focusing on.
From our perspective, I think the pandemic improved our food safety and sanitation processes. So if there's a shining light, that could be one of them. I think we're a better company as a result. And we see it even through the health and wellness of our employees, because in the past, people would come to work sick, and now they no longer do because they're of fear. So not fear, but it's rules. So we're not seeing other type of absenteeisms from sicknesses and stuff. We see them for other things, but at the end of the day, we're a better company from the cleaning and sanitation. So we don't plan to change a lot. I mean, some of the barriers and some things as times open up, but one of the things you talk about, what keeps you up at night is employee being hurt or contamination, right? So from my perspective, to have that extra caution, I embrace it.
Yeah. And our company is no different than anybody else. When COVID began and we increased our sanitation procedures and we kind of went overboard and kind of reeled it back in, as far as if we had a positive case, we would shut the line down and do extra cleaning, and we had people going around cleaning doorknobs and all that stuff. And a lot of that stuff we've backed off of, as it's been, communicated that that's not totally necessary. So I agree that the pandemic highlighted a lot of our weaknesses and a lot of things we just took for granted, probably is one way to say it, that, we've got everything as clean as it can be. But I think it's kind of, more importantly, opened our eyes to, our practices, how we interact with each other. And more importantly, what Mike said, our mindset's changed a little bit from, work through it, you're fine, don't stay at home, and I think that's helped a lot. But a lot of the extra sanitation procedures that, were probably a little bit above and beyond needed, we've backed those off.
I just saw an email this week where, they're making some adjustments, backing off on the mask requirements. But in addition to that, they emphasize that many of the procedures that were put in place for employee health and well-being, they want to continue practicing. Be conscious of one another, take care of yourselves. The simple things like washing your hands and keeping your area clean. Those had a greater focus for the past year and a half, and I don't see that letting up.
Do you communicate your sustainability efforts to the public? And if so, why?
I'll speak on that a little bit. Yeah, we are very conscious of what we have on our sustainability group. We have a department that focuses on every project that we do and our current operations. Their specific role is to go out there and look at what we can do to improve our water usages, reduce our shrink, materials. So we put a large emphasis on that. And in many cases, a lot of those savings that we do realize from those efforts, we're a very charitable company. We take those monies and distribute it to the different organizations, and not just look at it as a profit, but as another opportunity for us to be able to support the community and all the efforts that are out there that are needed.
I mean, for New Horizons, we don't really have a brand, if you will. I mean, we don't have a label you'll see on a shelf, but so we haven't done well in communicating it. We do a lot of work around it with sustainability and our efforts. I mean, we're zero waste to landfill, been that for almost 8 years now or so. Energy Star certification process now. So do a lot of good things, but sometimes we try to remain under the radar, maybe a little bit, not, I guess, humble, I guess is a better word, but we should be better at that, communicating that. We do it well internally, just not externally to the customers. But our team members, they all understand our efforts and what we're trying to achieve. And as you talk about the purpose, as folks come in and we're trying to attract talent and just show those type of things and demonstrate them through the onboarding process, it really does mean a lot to folks. And I grew up in an age that wasn't really a focus. So I think if that's another way to attract talent as well in a different way. So communicating it, I think, is important.
Yeah, to be honest, I was hoping this question was going to be skipped. Because we're a little bit in the same situation as Mike. Most of what we do is contract manufacturing, private company, under the radar. But it is, we do believe that, and I agree, it's a very important issue that we need to put more efforts into. And our customers do communicate that. We work for some of the bigger companies, and they're communicating that to the public. And unfortunately, sometimes they need to force people like us to work in those areas and improve. But definitely, it's an area for improvement and one of our bigger goals for the future.
I can echo that. I would say it was our key accounts that got it started with our company. It was, there wasn't a general awareness, but quite a few years ago that they were asking us, what are we doing? So we started documenting things and started looking at what can we do better. And I'll be honest, initially it was, we got to report back something. So we were doing some things, but it has grown. And for a couple reasons, I would say one, because actually realizing cost savings when you do some of these things. So like, oh, maybe this wasn't so bad after all. And then, as the company brings on younger people who their awareness of the environment and the sustainability aspects are greater, and they're in some of these meetings, they're not afraid to bring it up, call it out, say, could we do this? Could this happen? So I would say we're still in a growth phase, but I, for one, love seeing it because I think it's going to continue forward.
Thanks, guys. Quick question. This morning's discussion on supply chain was pretty interesting, and on the ingredient side, we're all faced with shortages, and they brought up gluten. Are you guys seeing anything else out there today or in the future that's going to be a challenge as far as supply chain in relation to ingredients?
Us on our side, we're trying to be forward-looking and seeing where those those resources or those materials are available in abundance. And so we've challenged the innovative part of our company to come up with new products that we can go ahead and fill some of those holes in a bakery. The last thing you want is a hole in your bakery. That's a lost opportunity. So we've come up with innovative design, products that are utilizing the materials that are available in abundance, and creating something that we can make with our existing equipment with maybe minor modifications to fill those holes. So it works, it works double-fold for us because that allows us to introduce new products out there and see how the customers react to them. Are they good? Are they moving? Are they not moving? So really, we've looked at it as an opportunity to develop new products.
And you mentioned the gluten. I think another shining light, if you can look at it, the clean label initiatives from years past kind of helped probably the situation we're currently in, where our ingredient decks are much lesser, so we don't have the supply chain demands to our operations. But in our industry, the gluten is the highest risk that we have currently. Haven't really seen a lot of challenges. Lead times, obviously, on everything's been extended, but the supply is there. But the gluten's that's been a headache. So we're challenging our teams how to formulate yourself out of it. Don't be dependent on gluten. I grew up. My dad was cheap and said, "You don't add gluten. You're a good baker. Don't eat gluten." But and we find that, you creep, right? You had a little weaker flour, you had 5 pounds this day, 3 days later, you had 5 more pounds, and next thing you know, you drifted out, you're 2-3% in. So they just go out and cut it and see what happens. So the supply chains there are there. I don't see them going away. We had to be creative on our side and be innovative how we drive that, dependency in those areas. So we're relying on our supplier partners like you to help us formulate that out and give us alternatives. And right now, that's a great opportunity for the ingredient folks, Mr. Miller.
I have a question about diversity. So, you guys are all in the hot seat.
Yeah, wait, but that wasn't on the list.
I'm going right for it.
Ad hoc.
Okay, so we have a workforce issue, a labor issue, but we also have an issue on diversity. So what are the strategies? How are you looking at workforce in different ways? And in thinking about kind of the keynote speaker on the first day, talking about an outsider's perspective, what are some solutions that you guys are thinking about in looking at diversity as a solution to a dwindling workforce? Or is that just an impossible question? What are we going to do about it?
I don't think it's an impossible question. I don't know that I have a great answer, but it is obvious that, to me, from doing this for a number of years, that if you don't diversify your teams, your thinking is going to be pretty similar to the way it's been in the past. And so one simple thing that we try to do is that when we do have an opportunity, an opening, or a new position, is to keep that in mind, that we don't need to hire somebody that has the same experience we do or thinks the same way we do, and we welcome different ideas. It's uncomfortable, because a lot of times it exposes our, hard-headed way of thinking. But we don't have a diversity program per se, but we've been talking about it with our customers. But I agree in 100% that if bringing somebody new onto a team that thinks differently and has different experiences is very, very valuable.
Yeah, I'm blessed. My owner of my company is a African American woman-led company, so it's in our DNA at New Horizons for the diversity, and so we're challenged daily on it in order to look at our workforce, to look at women in the workforce, look at different skill sets. We always tell our teams, I don't need everybody to be like somebody else. I mean, the owner of our company, Tim Brown, is many know he's a phenomenal man, but I don't need 455 Tim Browns. I need that one person to be the best version of them. If I can get the best version out of them, I don't need nothing else than the other person. So diversity, I want diverse of thought. We want youth. We want different demographic backgrounds. We're challenged just geographically. Our most recent acquisition is in Columbus, so it's a little bit more diverse there. So we're seeing the challenges of that. A lot of language barriers and stuff. So it's a challenge, but it should be intentional. Every business should be looking at their diversity, just a people, diverse of thought in an intentional manner.
With our organization, that's one of the key focuses that Publix is looking at is diversity across the whole organization. From some of our lower levels all the way to the upper management. So there's been a significant effort in fulfilling those roles with the right person. Doesn't matter. But that's we've had a large movement in our management and our teams across getting that diversity across all the organizations, all the different departments. So we've probably had a 20 to 30% change in the opportunities for the folks that in the past have not been looked at or didn't really apply for those positions for what the mindset was, and just to them. But we've seen a significant change with our organization. So.
I'll add one thing real quick. Our company had seen what they had thought was successful, their hiring program, the criteria that they were looking for in the past. They thought, this is our ideal employee, so they kept looking for that same one. Mm-hmm. And a few years ago, they started realizing, they created a weakness without that diversity. So, and resulted just this early spring, we have a new VP of HR, and she's brought in some fresh ideas. We started COVID last year with, our signs on the door about wearing masks and stuff in one language. It is now being posted in 3 different languages, just as this spring. So it's starting to change, and I don't know how much, but I see enough that I know it's happening, so that's great.
I thought it was interesting, Duncan, those of you who heard Duncan yesterday talked about that. He said do a strategy session to have somebody in the room that's completely an outlier, and that they were trying to design their new Disney Shanghai or whatever, and said we're going to have somebody. So they got a bunch of 50-year-old folks, guys, and one young Asian woman who ended up kind of rocking their world. So so that's something to think about from workforce to strategy and everything else. Gets people that don't look and act maybe just like you. So Brandon certainly talked about that. So Tim, you have a question?
Yeah. Hello. Specifically for Richard to start with, and then I know, Mike, you might want to chime in on this as well. One of the silver linings of COVID is that we've now had 3 straight quarters of really strong retail sales of bakery products. And I think that certainly I thought as we came out of COVID that would sort of go back to the mean, but it hasn't yet. Can you share with us any data about how norms have possibly changed and whether or not COVID's brought in new buying patterns and we can expect strong retail sales to continue for the future?
Yeah, for us, we've seen a large increase when the pandemic initially started. We haven't seen much of a reduction in that, in the demands coming from our stores. Some of it is driven by the fact that, we're building 35, 40, 45 stores a year. So that's, that keeps things moving too. But in regards to the needs for our manufacturing plants to produce, that has not slowed down. The only thing that has caused hiccups for us are the ability to bring the resources in. That's always been a challenge. But we have seen very little, reduction in what we're seeing going through our stores and the demands for our stores. Where we do see the opportunities for us is, as I mentioned earlier, those holes that we're seeing. We're trying to find ways to fill those because the customers coming to the store, they're ordering online. That's not going away. So if anything, we see the delivery services really, keeping us sustained and that jump that we initially seen. I mean, we're way above our goals, and we anticipated a reduction in that, but if it's just been minor, really has.
And, we service QSR, we co-pack in the retail, and we supply sandwich assembly operations. So obviously when QSR took a beating, we recovered that coming in 21. So we see that steadily climbing. Our co-pack side for our baker partners, that continually grows. So as bakeries are stressed on capacity, they can come to us. We don't have we're not non-competitive. We'll just put our product in your bag and sell it. So that business has been astronomical growth for us coming into this year. And the sandwich assembly side's been unique. The volumes there, so it goes into the retail shelves, frozen, handheld sandwiches and stuff. So that business is skyrocketing just from single use, easy carry. However, those assembly locations that build those sandwiches are stressed on labor force. So we see the ebbs and flows. We see shifting to plant. Luckily, we're in all those segments. Luckily, QSR has come back up, and it looks like it's going to sustain. But I don't see the retail side. There's no indications in the conversations that we talk to multiple bakers as we co-pack for them that we're being relieved anytime soon. So it's a good thing, but it's a good problem to have, but a problem.
That's true.
I have a question about packaging. Are you making any change to the packaging size? Do you see any trends for a smaller, larger package? Any opportunities for the suppliers to help you with those challenges?
We don't see a lot of changes with our products. We're fortunate enough that we have our own distribution system. We have our own warehouses. We're building several of them now. But for us, we don't see that. We don't see the consumer has looked for that. So we're continuing with our business as normal. Maybe on the cupcake side, the muffin side, we've seen some changes in size. Instead of a large and a small, maybe something in between. That's kind of where we're looking to just kind of eliminate one of the SKUs and just kind of still meet the need of both of those customers' wants. So yeah, for us, it hasn't changed.
Probably outside of the pandemic, but we've seen package sizes continually get smaller, mainly to keep the price point, probably the biggest reason. But the other changes we're seeing are changing package sizes to service a different area of the market. What may have been in a grocery store before now is in a convenience store. So that's kind of the changes we're seeing.
Before the pandemic, we saw that consumers were purchasing smaller loaves of bread, and in fact, we eliminated one of our large pans and had made some changes, and it was going down. And as soon as the pandemic hit, went the other way. You know, get the largest loaves out there as possible because that's what they're buying. And now we're perplexed a little bit. You know, I know there's ongoing discussions. You know, like what are the right pan sizes we need for our plants, and what does sales need? You know, will consumers still be looking for that value, or if they go to that broken work schedule where they're at home 2 or 3 days or hybrid work schedule, and then in the office, all right? What size loaf of bread do you need to make those sandwiches for half your week, and the other half you might be going out for lunch because you're tired of the sandwiches you're making at home. So I think there's going to be some changes, but I don't know what the right answer is, but it's going to show up here before the end of the year. We'll see.
I'm wondering from each of you, what are the top 3 things that you're looking for when selecting a supplier for a capital expenditure, and have those priorities shifted at all after going through the pandemic?
That's a great question. From a capital side for our company, we just look at suppliers, really, do I want to do business with them, right? Are they the type of, you know, are they want to be a partner? I don't want this to be a one-sided relationship. So that's what we look for first. You know, what kind of partner we're going to have. You know, I think it's one of the challenges we have, and when I challenge the equipment suppliers in the room, I know I'm not going on the 1, 2, 3, but as we look at automation, and it's very important for us to drive out labor in our plants, the issue we're going to see moving into the future is as those, right now we're challenged on, and pardon the unskilled labor, right, the general labor into the plants. As we infuse more technology, more equipment, and we love the new innovation that's being brought to us, but the skill sets to operate those on a day-to-day basis, now we're going to be challenging ourselves on the skilled labor side to operate them. So I'm looking for folks who can give me solutions there that can be a partner even long-term to help guide and train us. Our core value is about we treat everybody as family, and we mean that from our internal family, but our supplier partners as well to help us, because we don't win if they don't win. So as we look at challenges of what the future holds for us, we're not the experts. You know, we can bake, you're the equipment, ingredient. How do you help us, and how do we help you? So that partnership, you know, and you'll pay a little extra, right? But to know you have that partnership when opportunities come, and the support down the road, that you're not just going to be a transactional sale and go to the next. I mean, that's where our heart is.
Yeah, I think the partnership piece is probably the most important thing that we look for, and that's really hard to understand or wrap your head around if you're working with a new vendor, but that's really critical. And I think if anything, the pandemic is kind of brought that more to light, that, you know, I don't know anybody in the room that's ever put in anything that worked perfectly and you never had to do anything to it. And there's always going to be failures and always going to be setbacks, but we're looking for people who, you know, work with us to work through those things. And also, you know, suppliers that are forward thinking, looking down the road, you know, as you mentioned, with the workforce. You know, we can build the most sophisticated widget in the world, but if we're paying $12 an hour to run it, it's not really that valuable. You know, I think price is always important, but it's definitely not the most important thing when you're looking at, you know, putting in equipment that's going to run for 10, 15 years.
You know, for us, I think Rick alluded to it earlier, that we make our plans 4 or 5 years, 3 years ahead. The challenge that we're going to have coming up with our new capital budgets are, we're going to blow those budgets up. You know, if we budgeted 2 years ago to do a project, or even a year ago or 6 months ago to do a project, we have a budget that was approved by the board and now we have had the approval to move forward with that project. You know, that budget is no longer good, based on what I'm hearing out there and what I'm seeing. You know, we've placed orders for several pieces of equipment. Some of them are 10 months out, some of them are 50 months out. That work is going to occur, you know, next year. But the key thing is now we have to go back and look at some of the features that we typically like to see in the equipment, but we're going to have to work with our suppliers to see how we can look at the ones that are important to us and be able to justify keeping those in the equipment. You know, and another thing that was brought up was supplies, you know, spare parts. Part of our RFQs and our specifications are that you provide us a spare parts list. Well, we've even gone further than that. You will provide us all those spare parts when you deliver the equipment. So I'm not trying to get it 3 months down the road or 5 months down the road. I want a full set of spare parts with that piece of equipment. At the same time, the drive to put technology into equipment, it's great. There's a lot of things that you can do with all the automation out there right now. The issues that we have with that is having the folks in-house to maintain those. We're having to go out and hire full-blown engineers, automation engineers, just to support a piece of equipment. And then we've got to train them across 5 plants because there's not enough equipment there to sustain one person. So those are the things that we're challenged with, and we look at from a supplier standpoint is, do we need to go to that step, or can we kind of simplify it and try and keep it at the same level of an understanding and knowledge that our folks have to maintain the equipment. So, and we like pushback. We like feedback from the suppliers when we're asking for something crazy. Hey, look, do you understand this, and this comes along with that? Because we, on the engineering side, understand it. Our operations folks may not completely understand it, but would like to hear that back from the supplier. Not that you're going to tell us no, because in most cases, you guys will try and do whatever we ask. Probably shouldn't do that, but nonetheless, in order for us to be successful, you guys have to be successful. So it's kind of a partnership. We have to understand what we're getting, and and you have to understand what we're asking for, and does it really make sense? So that's just from from our perspective.
For me, this is a difficult question because I've been more focused on the ingredient side, but as far as when I go out for plant trials, if there's new equipment, I'm talking to the operators, and I'll ask them, how do you like this new piece of equipment? How's it running? And they're excited to see advancements, but if there's problems with it, they let you know right away. So for me, I think what would be important would be that, is there that follow-up, all right? Because I have, you count on engineering to do that planning. This is exactly what we need. This is going to fit in here, and it may have to be customized a little bit. But is there that follow-up? Hey, how's it running? Are you okay? Have you brought in any engineers that need updated on the operation of this equipment, some additional training? Is there anything we can do to support you? Because of I know the challenges of the entire workforce applies to engineering as well. So how can we keep the new engineers educated with all the equipment rather than allowing them to learn over 5 years all the different pieces of equipment? You may not retain them any longer than that, so you need to educate them quicker.
All right, thank you very much. Thanks for all the questions and the interaction. That was wonderful. Please thank the bakers that were up here. We sincerely really appreciate it. Just a couple logistic things. If you have a tux, go to the bell stand. You need to pick it up. as soon as you're out of here. And Calusa at 6 o'clock is the the reception tonight. I have one more quick question, just if it's one or two words. What's the best thing about being here this week? Anybody can start.
I tell you, I've missed it. I've missed just meeting everybody face to face. There's so many things that are out there that are being, that you guys are working on every day that apply to our business, to my, what my team is responsible for. So, just being able to talk with the individuals out there and I hear conversation, and it's like, oh, I've got that same problem. Right. So I'm gonna, as soon as they're done talking, I'm gonna go ahead and butt myself in here, right. And so really it's just fantastic to see everybody.
Right.
This is my first time here, and I think it's been wonderful. Thank you for allowing me to attend. For me, it's been meeting new people and having these conversations because, sometimes when you're trying to innovate new products, you got to match it to the equipment. Well, we have to work with what's existing, but eventually that equipment's going to be replaced. So having these conversations with you, to me, can only help in the future. Right. You will take some of these weird things I may state and keep them in mind, like, let's add some flexibility to our equipment for the future.
Right. For me, it's easy. It's relationships. I started here six years ago. Walked in, didn't know a soul, and now I got family. And so it's all about relationship to me, in the best industry in the world. So I appreciate all you guys, what you do.
Take us home, Brandon.
I think these nice, comfy chairs.
Yeah. I appreciate it. I did like those chairs. All right, we'll see everybody at 6 o'clock. Thanks a lot.
Love it.